In this video, we're going to go over the career plan and services for JTED Round 2. So to reach this page, if we go back to our customer list, we'll select the customer we need to update, and then we'll select from here the career plan page. And this will open up the plan overview page, and we have our tabs for review assessments, set goals, add steps and services, and our update log. And so the plan overview page, off to the left, and actually in previous pages too, will have the profile section, which shows the various pieces of information for the customer. You can see name, email, status, contact information, their workNet username, their workNet ID number, date of birth, the date they signed the application. In this case, I don't think the customer did sign, but the case manager did. The grantee organization they're with, most recent credential, and so forth. And we also have links to instructions for the career plan overview and various tools here for adding assessments outside, or that the assessments that we don't complete within Illinois WorkNet, but the customer may have completed elsewhere. How to enter those. We have a case notes summary tool here. So let me just open that up real quick. And so we can see no case notes have been added. And yeah, back on our overview page here, we're still getting a red flag here. So just to show you how to resolve this, I know we'll be updating our career plan in a second here, but once we leave a case note, if we come back over to our overview page, we should see this. Yes, so that is now green. Because the item this was looking for was case notes within 30 days. And so, yeah, we'll see our case note, history here, wherever we leave a case note for our customer, that will populate here. And you can search by start date, end date. You can filter down to that. You can add a case note, or you can export this as a Excel document. And let's see. Okay, so if we go to, so yeah, that's the section off to the left here. We have our latest customer goals plan agreement. If we have, the customer signed it, but, we'll say that in this case, they signed the paper application, we've uploaded it, it's on file. We can save that status there. And actually to upload it, under this participant summary tools section, if we click uploads, for this customer, any documentation or uploads you need to do for the customer, you can add them here. So we'll click upload file, category, and we'll select whichever one is most applicable. So let's say career plan, sign career plan. We'll choose a file. And how about, let's see, we will select this just because it's a PDF. Okay, so, and that's how you can upload the file there. And if you need to remove it, you should see this remove button here. But that's how the uploads work here. So, okay, going back to the plan overview page, we have some sections here: assessments, desired career paths. These are through these are assessments that are within the Illinois WorkNet system. So if a customer with their WorkNet account, they've completed the career cluster inventory or employment 101, those statuses will display here as they complete them. They're not necessarily requirements of the JTED program. That's just the explanation of what this is. And similarly to the desired career path, we have a tool for careers, wages, and trends that exists outside of the JTED system. Again, not a requirement for them to do, but yeah, just an explanation of this area here. And as we're going through the system and the customer earns credentials through the JTED training program and they complete goals and services, we'll see these numbers increase from 0 to 1. And now when a customer is added to the JTED system, there are 4 goals that automatically populate along with the service here. And so this is, one view of this. And we can edit, the titles of these goals, but um, yeah, our goals, I'd like to learn about careers and basic skills in order to, I'd like to receive support services. I'm interested in training and I'm interested in work-based learning in order to. So those are just the goals that we have that populate. If we need to um, edit those at all, we can go to the Set Goals tab and we can see um, we can see the status of it. So let's say this customer started. So let's say, if we wanted to update the text, we can. If we need to change the category or make it a short term or long term, it's um, you have the option to do so. But in this case, let's say for status, now that we're starting to work on the customer, we'll say, you know, on track, and we'll click save here. And so we can see that status for the goal has been updated there as well. And so let's actually go to the career plan now. So we'll click this Add Step Services button here. And this will take us to where we can add and edit our services. So we do have one service that has pulled over, service everyone has when they're added into the system. And the goals that we said, so we had 4 goals on that previous page, and the goals are showing here in this purple, this purple rectangle here. And we can click to close or open the goals. And in parentheses, we see the number of services there. So this goal has 1 service, and the following goals do not have any services. So to add a service, because there's a couple we'll need to add for this customer. So we'll add, let's see, we'll add this barrier reduction service itemized list. Because if you recall in a previous video on our progress page, we had, we're going to need to capture the costs for deposits and first month rent for the barrier reduction support services. So we'll get to this service in a moment, but we'll add this service here, get the confirmation that it's been added. So in step 1, we look at services and add them. In step 2, this is where the services go, and then we'll need to assign it to a goal so it comes down to step 3. So step 1, add the service. Step 2, assign the service to a goal, and then step 3 is where you're going to be editing and managing that service. Okay, so let's begin with the service down here, career planning and case management. All right, so in this service, it looks like it only has 2 tabs. We have our status default tab, which is more or less the same regardless of service. Here we'll have the option to assign it to a goal. It's already in this goal, but if we needed to move it to another goal for whichever reason, we could make that selection here. If we, let's see, so let's give it a planned start date. So let's say today, the 7th. And the plan completion date, let's say the end of the month. And then our next field here is average weekly hours. How many hours a week is this customer going to spend on career planning and case management? And so let's say 5. And the only other thing we need to do here is change the status from planned not started to started open. We do have options for successful and unsuccessful completion and hold, but we'll select started open and then the actual start date. So we have the planned start date, but then the actual start date. If there's any additional notes you wanted to include, you could add this here, but when we're going to be when we're updating the customer service, we're going to be prompted to leave a case note anyway. So let's leave a case note. So we'll need to enter in the subject of the case note. So let's see. Career planning. David has started his career plan. So enter the case note, and then we have the option to send the case note as a workNet message to this customer's account. And by that, what we mean is this. So when you So let's, pretend this is the customer account here so we can send the case note as a message. And by that, that's the messaging system within workNet. So let's see if we click messages, it's sort of like a inbox here that this can be added to or sent to directly to their account, or it can be sent as a message and an email. So in that inbox there, or the email the customer has on file, or if you just want to save the case note without sending a message or email to the customer, you can do that as well. And so we'll click the button to add a case note, and we'll see that the customer service has been successfully updated. And if we go back to, so, we've had the customer enrollment status, they were applicant, but now since we have a service that has a status of started and open, and we are at or past that date, the start date, we can go back over here to our progress page and see that the customer status is enrolled. And so we see that on the progress page, and we also see that on their intake page and off to the left over here. So just wanted to point that out there. So let's go back to the career plan because there's a couple other services I want to go over, but let me go to a different one. So we can, the services are broken out by different types. So we have employment, training, support, and career post-secondary education plan. Let's take a look at a training service and say, let's say concurrent conceptual training. Okay, so we've had the service from step 1 into step 2, and now we need to assign it to a goal. So if we select this pencil icon to edit this, we'll see there are a couple more tabs here. And let's see, so let's start by assigning it a goal. How about we'll put it in the I'm interested in training goal here. And we'll enter the start date, the plan completion date. Average number of weekly hours, let's say 30. Change the status to started open and give this a start date, and then we'll leave a case note here. Oh, but with this service, we see that we are required to enter the service provider tab here. So we'll go to the service provider tab. I won't take away what we've entered here, but if we go to the service provider tab, we'll see the option to add, or the feature to add our training service. So previously, to get set up, you had to come into the system and enter your training program and credentials. And so for your training program, or if you've entered more than one training program, that'll appear here in this list. So for this grantee that I'm logged in with, it's Grimmer Family Farm. And so that's the grantee name, but then I also have three training programs. So whichever program that this customer is in, we'll just select the radio button here. You also have the option to search for WIO provider if you needed to. So you can do a text search here. So let's say existing program. So then we can just click select, and that would be enough. Or if there's a different provider, you would select other and just fill out the name, address information, and it looks like instructor is optional. But in this case, we'll select Grimmer Family Farm and basic heating and air conditioning. And so if we go back to update the customer service, the case note we started to enter, that will populate here. So then we'll click add case note to update this. See the customer service has been successfully updated. Back on our service provider tab, we can see that training provider and program has been saved. And if we go to our Earn Credentials tab, one important thing about selecting the service provider with the training program and credential information that we entered, on the Earn Credentials tab, those credentials that we added when we set up, those are automatically getting pulled in here. So, you have the option to manually add a credential. And if we click that button, we'll see that we have to fill out name, credential source, the date, it was attained, the credential type, the institution providing the credential, and a description about it. But if we select from the radio button one of those credentials that we previously added, the window will pop up and we don't have to enter in, a lot of these fields because they're just automatically pulling through here. So we'll just say credential source, let's say, a copy of the credential, and then we just need to enter the date that it was earned, and we can click save. And that makes, adding it, very easy. If we needed to remove a credential for whatever reason, maybe we selected the wrong one, we can click remove here. Or if we need to go back and edit, we can click this view details and make the necessary changes here. Okay, so let's go back to our career plan here. And actually, let me go back a page. So we do kind of have like a breadcrumb trail here. So this is us editing the service here. If we click add activity services, that's going to take us back to where we've been adding and editing our services. This page right here. Or if you go to career plan, I believe that's going to take us back to our plan overview. So we do have a breadcrumb feature there if we needed to kind of quickly jump between pages here without having too many tabs open. But let's see. So yeah, going back, just taking a look at our service that we just edited, we see the name of the credential, the status of it, the date it was started, today's date, which is the date we last updated it, and an icon here. And if you can see this hover text, just a little icon here, the customer is credentials associated with this service. Okay, and let me go back to our overview page here just to show you something. So we have our career plan service, our career plan and case management. That was one service that we updated to being started. But if we refresh the status here, we can see that, since we last updated that, the services are now showing, started and open and the dates we assigned it. And this new service that we added is showing in this career plan status field as well. And if we scroll down a little bit further, we can see credential earned, the HVAC, that was the one that we added to our concurrent conceptual training service, and the date it was added. And so this went from, I believe it was yellow. Let's see, let's click this info bubble here. Certification program was completed, but the credential was not entered. So if a credential is not entered, it will be yellow. Once it has been entered, it will turn green like we have now. I believe if we mark the service as complete without adding the credential, it'll turn red. And gray for no action. If the customer, declined to participate, or, withdrew, then that will turn to gray for, no action needed. All right, but the next thing I want to take a look at is the barrier reduction service, because we still need to address the items here from our service needs assessment. So if we go back to our career plan, and for the barrier reduction service, we'll click the pencil icon to edit. And then that will take us to our default tab. So let's assign this to a goal. Let's see, receive, support service, plan start date today, okay, completion date, end of the month. And we'll say spend 1 hour on this per week. Let's say it started open and the actual start date. So then we'll click to update the customer service and send or save the case note. And let's see here. Okay, so we can see that it has been successfully updated. But on this dollar value of service tab, this is where we can add the costs. So if we click this add service cost button, we'll get the window here for adding the edit dollar value of service. And we want to add costs for deposits and first month's rent. So for service type, This first one here, based on our selections, we have housing assistance, transportation, dependent care, legal aid, healthcare, other. Depending on what we select, in the next dropdown for service subtype, those are going to be directly related to our first option here. So at the top, we selected legal aid, and we're seeing, items for, legal aid, legal fees. If we select, transportation in the service subtype, we're seeing transit fare cars, car repairs, bike repairs, driver's license, and so forth. So in this case, we'll need housing assistance. And from the service subtype, deposits. That was our first one listed here. And so we'll select deposits and the payment method. We'll say direct payment. The date started today. The individual payment cost, let's say 1,300, and the number of times offered at this cost once. And so if we say this is a cost estimate, maybe we don't have the exact number, whatever the service, whatever the cost is, it's, around 1,300, but we're not sure exactly. So if it's a cost estimate, we can say yes. And we can say it's paid by the grant. And we have this question here. It looks like it defaults to no. This service counts towards the maximum allowed subsidized days for the individual. But once we have this entered, we'll click save, get the prompt that it's been saved successfully, and we'll see that summary information in the system here. The payment method, the service description, the amount, how many times that amount will be paid, the total, payment date, who it was updated by and when. And if we need to go back and edit and make any changes, we can click this pencil icon, and that'll pull up that window here. If we need to delete it, maybe it was the wrong pay or cost information, wrong customer, wrong type, or we can remove that as well. So if we go back over to our overview page and click the refresh status button, what we'll see is for deposits, 1,300. That was what we entered here. And let's see. So we still need to add the one for first month rent. So if we go back here, we don't need to add a second barrier reduction service itemized list. We can add it once and add as many costs as needed to it. So we'll click the button to add the service here. And we'll select housing assistance and then first month rent, right? Yeah. So we'll select the payment method, the payment start date today, individual payment costs. Let's say again, 1,300. Maybe we're offering that 6 times. Is it a cost estimate? Yes. Say it's paid by the grant and click save. Okay. So then in our summary table here, we can see that this has been added. 1,300, but 6 times. And the total cost is listed here, 1,300 times 6. And what we can see here is the current total, 9,100. That's just, totaling up the cost information here. And if we go back to our refresh status page or progress page, select the refresh status button, we'll see that cost has also been added into the system, and we see the total here. But it's still yellow. And the reason for that is, so green, the costs have been entered, the support service has been addressed. Well, we're not quite there. Yellow needs attention, one of 2 things. The support service still needs addressed. We have addressed it, or it's yellow because the estimated cost needs updated. So if we go back here and open up our service or our cost here, it's coming back yellow because for both of these, we said that it was a cost estimate. But, once we, come back and, maybe it was actually, it was around 1,300, but it actually turns out to be 1,275. That was the confirmation there. So cost estimate, we can say no because we have the exact number now and click save. And we'll need to do that for our other one, I believe. Yes. Okay. So we'll say 1,275 as well. Select no for cost estimate, update this. We'll see the totals change. And if we go back over here, select refresh status, we'll come down to our barrier reduction support services section, we'll see that this is green for good, and the total has been updated here. Let's see, and all right, so once we have that uh, information entered, we can go ahead and just mark this service as successful completion. And I'll put this date a little bit ahead because I don't think it'll allow me to choose today's date. And then we'll leave a case note here and see that the service has been updated, I believe. Let's see. Successful completion. Yes. Okay. So if we go back to our add activities services here, and we scroll down, we'll see another icon next to our bear reduction service, the dollar symbol indicating the customer service has a cost tied to it. And we had a couple other services here that are still open. I want to go ahead and select those and mark those as complete as well. Completing those are, um, it works the same way. You just need to set the status to successful completion and offer or add the completion date. Then we'll leave the case note here. So that's been complete. This has been completed as well. All right, so then if we go back to our career plan here, we should have all the services closed out. Let's see. Yep, successful completion. Here's our completion date. All right, so our services are updated. If we go back here one more time for this video to refresh, we'll see that the services we've added have gone from started open to successful completed. And so that's how you can, let's see, edit and manage services and goals in the career plan. In another video, we're going to go over the worksite placement service and how that works in the career plan, but it's a little bit more detail to it than the services we've gone over in this video. But that is how you can manage the customer's career plan for JTED Round 2.